In the most powerful empire on earth, a man signed a death warrant for an entire people. He had the king's approval. He had the date set. He had the gallows built. There was only one thing he didn't count on. The queen was one of them. The most powerful empire in the world at that time was Persia. Its king was Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes. He ruled over 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia. His word was law. And his law could not be reversed. Not even by himself. In the capital city of Susa, inside the royal palace, there was a young woman named Esther. She was beautiful. She was intelligent. And she carried a secret that could have gotten her killed. She was Jewish. Esther had been raised by her older cousin Mordecai after her parents died. Mordecai loved her like a daughter. And when King Xerxes held a search across the kingdom for a new queen, Esther was brought to the palace. Mordecai warned her. "Tell no one you are Jewish." She kept that secret close. And then the unthinkable happened. Esther was chosen. A Jewish orphan girl became the Queen of Persia. But no one in the palace knew what she really was. Now in that same palace there was a man named Haman. He was powerful. He was proud. And the king had elevated him above every other official in the kingdom. Every servant at the palace gate bowed when Haman passed. Every servant, except one. Mordecai refused to bow. Day after day Haman walked past and Mordecai stood straight. The other servants watched. They warned Mordecai. "Do you not know who this man is?" But Mordecai would not bow. When Haman found out, something dark rose up inside him. He was not just angry. He was consumed. Killing one man was not enough. He decided he would destroy every Jewish person in the entire Persian Empire. Every man. Every woman. Every child. All of them. Gone. Haman went to King Xerxes with a carefully crafted lie. He said, "There is a certain people scattered throughout your kingdom whose customs are different from everyone else. They do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them." He even offered to pay for it himself. And the king, without asking who these people were, handed Haman his royal ring. "Do with them as you please." The decree went out to every province. On the 13th day of the 12th month, every Jewish man, woman, and child in the Persian Empire was to be killed. Their property taken. Their names erased. When Mordecai heard what had happened, he tore his clothes. He put on sackcloth and ashes and walked through the city crying out in grief. All across the kingdom, Jewish people wept and fasted and mourned. Esther heard that Mordecai was in mourning. She sent a servant to find out what had happened. And when Mordecai sent back the full story, he included a single request. "Go to the king. Beg for mercy for your people." Esther sent back a message that revealed the impossible position she was in. Everyone in the kingdom knows that any man or woman who goes to the king without being summoned is to be put to death. The only exception is if the king extends his golden scepter. And I have not been summoned in 30 days. Even the queen could not simply walk in. Even the queen could be executed for approaching uninvited. Mordecai's reply was direct. And it cut through every excuse. "Do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone of all the Jews will escape. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, perhaps you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." For such a time as this. Esther sat with those words. And then she made her decision. "Go, gather together all the Jewish people in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. I and my attendants will fast as well. And then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. 3 days passed. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes. She walked through the palace toward the inner court. Toward the throne room. Toward a king who had not called for her. King Xerxes was sitting on his royal throne. He looked up. And saw Esther standing in the court. The entire room must have held its breath. Then the king extended his golden scepter. She could approach. She would live. But Esther did not reveal her request immediately. She was wise. She invited the king and Haman to a banquet. Then at the banquet, she invited them to a second banquet the next day. She was patient. She was waiting for the right moment. That night, Haman left the palace feeling like the most important man in the world. He had dined with the king and queen. Twice. But when he passed through the gate and saw Mordecai still standing, still refusing to bow, his joy turned to rage. He went home and ordered a gallows to be built. 75 feet tall. He planned to ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai hanged on it. That same night, the king could not sleep. He asked for the royal records to be read aloud to him. And in those records, something was found. A forgotten entry. Years earlier, a man named Mordecai had uncovered a plot to assassinate the king. His warning had saved the king's life. Has he ever been honored for this? The servants checked. No. Nothing has been done for him. The next morning Haman arrived at the palace early. He was there to ask for Mordecai's execution. But before he could speak, the king called him in and asked him a question. What should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Haman assumed the king was talking about him. So he described the grandest honor he could imagine. Royal robes. The king's own horse. A proclamation through the city streets. The king said, "Go at once. Get the robe and the horse and do exactly as you suggested for Mordecai the Jew who sits at the king's gate." Haman led Mordecai through the city streets proclaiming his honor. The man he had come to destroy. The man he had built a gallows for. That evening, Esther held the second banquet. And this time, the king asked again. "What is your request, Queen Esther?" "Whatever it is, it will be granted." And Esther finally spoke. "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, and if it pleases you, spare my life. And spare the lives of my people. For my people and I have been sold to be killed and destroyed." The king was stunned. Who would dare do such a thing? Esther pointed across the table. This man. This wicked Haman. The king stood up in rage and walked out into the garden. Haman, terrified, threw himself before Esther begging for his life. When the king returned and saw Haman fallen across Esther's couch, he said, "Will he even assault the queen in my own house?" One of the king's servants spoke up immediately. "There is a gallows at Haman's house. 75 feet tall. He built it for Mordecai, the man who saved the king." The king said simply, "Hang him on it." Haman was hanged on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The trap he had set destroyed only himself. The king gave Haman's estate to Esther. He gave Haman's ring, the ring of royal authority, to Mordecai. And because the law of Persia could not be reversed, a second decree was issued, giving the Jewish people the right to defend themselves. They survived. Every last one of them. An orphan girl who became a queen. A cousin who refused to bow. And a villain who built his own destruction. The Jewish people still celebrate this story every year. They call the festival Purim. Named after the lots that Haman cast. The dice he rolled. The gamble he lost. Because one woman refused to stay silent. Even when silence felt like safety. Even when speaking meant death. She stepped forward anyway. And said, "If I perish, I perish." She didn't. Her name was Esther. And she saved a nation.